Wait, who are you people? We're the good guys!
This is Mosaik, live from the Freak Sanctum, and welcome back to part 3 of Leverage, the Art of the Con. For those of you who are new to the Vault, this is a series where I take in-depth looks at my favorite shows, and hopefully some of yours too. You guys made your voices heard, and you will be taking a look at Leverage Season 3. The entire show is available on Amazon Prime and Freevee, so make sure you've seen at least the first 3 seasons, as there will be spoilers in this video. I also have my first 2 videos on Leverage to watch, so make sure to check those out too. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, you know what the algorithm wants. With that said, let's go steal a good time. Season 3 begins with the crew trying to break Nate out of Supermax's prison after 6 months awaiting trial. Despite telling the crew to leave him and let him serve his time, he ends up finding a client in prison and ends up having to orchestrate a jailbreak anyway to save him. Turns out, the whole situation was a setup, an audition for a mysterious and seemingly powerful woman, referred to by the crew as the Italian. She blackmails the crew into taking on the biggest bad of all big bads, Damien Moreau.
Moreau finances the Sicilians, the Russian mafia, the Colombian cartels.
He moves money for the North Koreans, stolen artifacts for Iraq, nuclear materials for Iran.
This season is the most syndicated the show probably ever gets, with the crew still doing what they do best, but ensuring that some of the cons lead them closer to Moreau. From taking down a tech company selling software to Iran to suppress free speech, to getting info out of a federal witness before he testifies. If last season they got to take off the training wheels, this season added some NOS to the engine. This season has the second largest string of back-to-back episodes that I would consider excellent. The writing, the action, the characters, all of it was brought to the next level. The setups of the episodes are so much more unique and allow for some great inventive moments. If I had to criticize something, I wish a few more of the 16 episodes had a clear connection to the Moreau storyline, or even just brought up Moreau to keep him in the back of your mind. They are decently spread out in the beginning and end, but then there's a long period where the episodes don't even mention Moreau. But this season has some of the absolute best episodes in the entire series, including my all-time favorite episode, so I can forgive it more easily. There aren't any major character arcs this season, but each character does get some focus episodes that make them more interesting and show how far they've come as characters. Elliot, we come to find, is actually a great singer, mostly because his actor Christian Kane is an amazing singer with his own band. He co-wrote a song that is featured in this season.
Thinking of you when I'm thinking about the road you're on.
We also get another dope episode that I almost exclusively refer to as the Elliot Hardison Power Hour. You have no idea how cathartic it is these days to see some neo-Nazi douchebags get their asses kicked. Hardison this season is revealed to have a goal of running his own crew. He tries to spend time with Nate and learn from him, but Nate is doubtful that he has what it takes. At least for now. According to Nate, a leader must be willing to do whatever it takes to ensure success. How he chooses to prove this is utterly hilarious and kinda messed up. Though, it was a great excuse to see Aldous Hodge show off his violin skills in character.
That was beautiful.
My favorite episode in the whole show shows off my favorite character in the show. In the Inside Job, we find out just how Parker became Parker, namely Archie Leach, the previous title holder of World's Greatest Thief.
Taught her everything I know and unleashed her on the world.
Archie was impressed after a young Parker, living on the streets, tried to lift his wallet and decided to train her as his protege, keeping her separate from his actual family due to her eccentricities.
What was I supposed to do? You know Parker. You know she wouldn't fit in.
In the episode, Parker, still seeing Archie as a father figure and wanting to protect his family, takes on a solo heist in Archie's place. That quickly falls apart due to...
Steranko?
Steranko.
On her own, has she lost her mind?
Okay, please, somebody explain to me, what the hell is a Steranko?
You take one of those computers that can beat like 100 people at chess. It's got a brain the size of a building. You hook it up to military-grade infrared, ultrasound, motion sensors.
Yeah, and then give it the personality of a pissed-off Rottweiler. That's a Steranko.
Not to mention that the person who hired them is trying to cause a nationwide disaster, which she convinces the team to stick around and stop. Parker may not seem like it, but she's well aware of her neurodivergence and how awkward she can be. We also find out in a later episode that before meeting Archie, Parker used to boost cars. She ended up in juvie when the kid who taught her to jack them left her high and dry for the cops. When she sees an impressionable young girl in a similar situation, she attempts to warn her off, not wanting her to end up like she did. These episodes do a fantastic job of showing how far Parker has come since Leverage began, and how dedicated she has become to their mission. Nate and Sophie's development this season primarily focuses on their romantic relationship, or lack thereof. Sophie, after what happened last season, has told everyone in the crew her real name. Everyone except Nate. He pretty much spends the entire season trying to figure out what it is, with Sophie taunting him at every opportunity. Sophie does get a nice episode where she gets to take the lead on a con in London, where it turns out she may be connected to the royal family in some way? Anyway, she has a moment of self-reflection about the collateral damage that may have come from her career, after seeing their target using children to smuggle antiquities across borders. It is a genuine moment that I wish was explored a bit more. Having accepted his place as a criminal, Nate shows himself to be more ruthless than previously seen. This naturally rubs the crew the wrong way, which Nate manages to do at the best of times. But he is, of course, willing to take the same risks himself. This is probably the least amount of development that Nate goes through in the series, but there is one key thing.
Hello, Dad.
Having been mentioned multiple times in the show so far, Jimmy Ford shows himself to be quite the crafty criminal. He is extremely prideful and protective of his reputation. But having gone to jail for decades to protect the local mob families, he finds himself in a world that has long forgotten. So he organizes a plan with some Russian mobsters to get himself back on top. Unfortunately, due to this plan involving forcing criminals to commit crimes, this puts Leverage, and Nate specifically, in opposition. The interactions between Jimmy and Nate are bar none some of the best in the show, and Jimmy informs so much about Nate and his personality. Tim Hutton and Tom Skerritt have impeccable chemistry, and I wish he had gotten more opportunities to be in the show, but he left quite the impact for how little time he got. The theme of this season is patience. Makes sense considering that this is the first season that lets you know the end goal right from the start, and the team playing one long set of cons to achieve that goal. But there are subtle ways that the theme plays into various episodes, such as the way Parker jumps the gun and tries to tackle the world's most insane security system with no help and half a plan, or a client who spent literally years trying to hold her sister's killers accountable, or Jimmy Ford loyally waiting in prison for people who had long since stopped caring. Speaking of guest spots, something that cannot go overlooked is the insane amount of famous guest stars who have been a part of this show. Season 1 had Brent Spiner, Nicole Sullivan, D.B. Sweeney, Danny Strong, Armin Shimmerman, and Sarah Rue. Season 2 had Beth Broderick, Will Wheaton, Richard Kind, Luke Perry, Paul Blackthorne, and of course, Jerry Ryan. And in this season, we get Giancarlo Esposito, Clancy Brown, John Snyder, Melise Zhao, Bill Engvall, Alona Tall, Bruce Davison, and Goran Visniak. This show's pretty freaking stacked. And if you're wondering how so many Star Trek actors are involved, Jonathan Frakes is one of the show's most recurring directors. And considering the quality of his episodes specifically, thank God for that. Some highlight episodes this season, other than the Inside Job because I already explained that, the Jailhouse Job, an excellent opener that does a great job of setting the main plot in motion. The gone fishing job. Let me see that one more time. Thanks. The studio job. I'm a sucker for musical episodes. The underground job.
Eat shit, Bob!
The Rashomon job. Probably the best of the bottle episodes with a really creative premise. But the finale this season is truly a cut above the rest. The crew, preparing to make their move against Moreau, end up saving a DoD engineer from being assassinated. They later find out from the Italian that Moreau is on his way to DC to facilitate an auction that in some way involves the engineer's research on a revolutionary battery, and that the retired general overseeing the project, Atherton, is in bed with Moreau. Not seeing a better opportunity to take their shot, the crew head to DC to disrupt the auction. While Nate, Sophie, and Parker steal more info on the project, Elliot and Hardison meet with Moreau, where this happens.
I'm Elliot Spencer.
What the hell? What the hell? Yeah, so Elliot used to work for Moreau. And not just for a job or two, but presumably as his head of security, personal bodyguard, and #1 hitman. And this is easily one of the most powerful moments in the show, let alone for Elliot's character. We always knew that Elliot had the shadiest past on the show, but this explains so much about him. My only problem with it is that it is not foreshadowed in any way. The only thing we get is seeing Elliot visibly on edge at the start of this episode, which we never really see to this degree. It didn't need much, but some more would have been nice. Some moment to show that he was more apprehensive about taking on Moreau than the rest of them. But instead, it comes right out of nowhere, which works for the shock value but makes it weaker in my opinion from a storytelling perspective. Elliot does manage to secure the team's invite to the auction, on the condition that he kills Atherton. Right as they find this out, Hardison deduces that the prize of the auction is an EMP bomb, capable of shutting down an entire city. Side note, we also find out that the Italian is working undercover as one of Moreau's bikini-wearing party girls. The crew manage to fake Atherton's death and head to the meet, only to find themselves in a tied-up Italian surrounded by an army of Moreau's personal goons. We then get one of the goofiest and yet most badass moments in the whole show. Sophie, Hardison, and Parker manage to chase down the bomb and blow it up, while Nate and the Italian confront Moreau, having framed him for various crimes and delivering the evidence to Banana. Moreau does manage to escape, but even with their freedom secured,
Job's not done.
What are we gonna do when we get there?
Finish the job.
the crew follows Moreau, now on the run, to San Lorenzo, a small, corrupt European country with no extradition that he basically owns. Fully understanding that this is probably a suicide mission, they decide that the best way to take away Moreau's protection is to literally overthrow the government. Namely, by working their magic to get the only remaining challenger elected by somehow turning him into a decent candidate. Sophie poses as his fiancée, they make attack ads, they pretty much run it like an American election, which is both hilarious and kinda terrifying for various reasons. The election going on is the only thing keeping them alive though, so tensions are pretty high. Of course, they knew they were never actually going to win. So instead, as the election results come in, they send a mass email to the country claiming victory. This, along with some clever arguments from Nate, caused the president to turn on Moreau and concede. And as an American living in 2022, the fact that literal fake news and an assault on the country seat of power helped save the day is not lost on me.
We just stole the country. I want souvenirs.
Also, this happens.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's about damn time. Season 3 is an absolute triumph in my book. Iconic episodes and moments, with even the weakest ones being stellar adventures. An upgrade to the action, and the stakes are the largest scale we've ever seen. An incredible 2-part finale that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Before starting this, Season 3 would have been my pick for my absolute favorite season. But that's a bit in debate now. To understand why, make sure to come back as we discuss Season 4. Now, I once again want to ask you guys. You guys definitely want to see Leverage to the end, but I want to know what you want to see me cover after Season 5. I'll be leaving a poll on Twitter with some suggestions, so let me know what you want to see first. Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, all the things that make YouTube happy. As always, this is the Freak Sanctum, and this is Mosaik signing off.